do our college football weekend preview. I want to get to these games. Conference championship week. What a great weekend of college football. A couple of games tonight, as we mentioned at the top. North Texas and Tulane. It's a very compelling game. Winner likely gets to the college football playoff, right? I like North Texas in this game. Best offense in the country. All they do is score 50-plus points, and I think they go in. Tulane might be a little bit distracted, right? Summerall, he takes the Florida job. He's still coming back to coach his team in the championship, which I love. Credit to him for that, and credit to Tulane for allowing that to happen. A little bit different, right, than the Kiffin situation. Kiffin, he goes to a rival, fellow team in the SEC. That's not what's going on with Tulane here. They understand their role. They understand their lane. Summerall's getting promoted, right, to go to Florida. Let him come back, coach a team. It was a 10-win team. Just great execution there from Tulane. But I do like North Texas in this game. And with that offense, at some point, I've been saying this, college basketball in the tournament, you see upsets all the time. At some point, you're going to see one of these group of 5 teams win a game in the college football playoff. I'm not going to say they're going to go on a run or get to the Final Four or anything like that. They're going to win a game at some point. North Texas, to me, that offense is fun. That offense is really fun. Defense, I don't know. But I could see them getting in a shootout with somebody and potentially winning. That's tonight. James Madison, Troy tonight as well. James Madison's going to moonwalk to a victory there, and they got an opportunity to potentially get in the college football playoff there as well. But we'll start with tomorrow. Not going to talk about the MAC championship. Miami, Western Michigan, basically a pick 'em. I think Western Michigan 1.5 favorite in that game. Chuck Martin had him on the show earlier this week. Check that out. We talked about the game. It's on our channel. Some clips on our socials there as well. BYU, Texas Tech. BYU's had a tremendous year. Kalani Sitake, that whole saga, it's so interesting this time of year with the coaches leaving, staying, what have you. Looked like he was going to take the Penn State job, and then the crumble cookie guy came in and he said, no, not so fast. We're actually going to pay you a ton of money, and you're going to stay right here, and we're going to continue to fund this program. The crumble cookie guy, BYU guy, and he's basically funding their whole football program. Sitake's going to get a raise. He's going to stay, and they're going to pour money in NIL-wise into that program. And look out. BYU here, they had a freshman quarterback in Bachmeier. I would assume he's going to stick around. And they're definitely going to be a force here in the Big 12 going forward. But I just don't see them having success in this game. I think it's a really bad matchup against the Texas Tech team, which, you talk about Texas Tech, you talk about the best teams in college football, Ohio State and Indiana, and you can throw the SEC teams there as well, like Georgia, right, what have you. This Texas Tech team can win the national title. I'm not predicting that that's going to happen, but they can, and it would not surprise me if they did. They're a really good team, and I know a lot of you people out there probably haven't watched much of them, but Baron Morton, since he's been able to get healthy and come back, he plays the position at a really high level, and that defense is for real. Their defensive coordinator is top of the list for the Broyles Award. They've done a tremendous job. Jacob Rodriguez at that linebacker spot, one of the best linebackers in the country, probably the best if you don't include the Ohio State boys in that conversation. David Bailey off the edge, and they're just so good at stopping the run. And that's what BYU's got to do in this game is run the football. They're going to run it with Bear Bachmeier, who's like a linebacker playing quarterback, and Martin as well, who ran all over the UC Bearcats. They're going to want to get him the ball and hand it off to him in between the tackles. I just don't see them scoring enough points to hang in there. I think it will be kind of similar to what we saw when they met in the regular season, right? So what was that, 26-7, I believe, was the final in that game, and Texas Tech was kind of kicking some field goals there early. BYU has had a tremendous year. If they win this game, obviously they're in. If they can keep it close, they'll have an argument. I think they'll be on the outside still, but they'll have an argument if they can keep it close. But I don't know if I anticipate that happening. We'll revisit this game for our best bets of the weekend. But A&M's a great team. Joey McGuire, what he's done, tremendous. And, we talk about this all the time. Oh, you can't buy national titles. What did Texas Tech do this offseason? They paid a lot of dudes a lot of big-time money. And, we'll see. If they lose the first round of the playoffs, I'm not going to say it's all for nothing, but then you're like, okay. But if they go on a run here in the CFP, that might be a formula that, you have some success with. I understand Belichick kind of did the same thing at Carolina. That didn't go well. I think there's a lot of other reasons why that didn't go well there as well. But, Texas Tech, they have a totally different team this year. Paid a bunch of guys a ton of money. Joey McGuire's got them believing. And, it's a town in Lubbock where, they rally behind that university when they're playing well. And they got a good basketball team. They got a good football team as well. And we'll revisit it as well for the best bets of the weekend. Georgia, Bama. It just feels right, SEC title game. It's different these days. It's not just East, West when it was, Georgia, Bama, that matchup's going to happen a lot. Georgia 2.5-point favorites in this game. Georgia has the better team, and they're playing better football right now. So the line should be a little bit more than that. But if you know anything about the SEC and you know anything about Alabama, they don't lose when they go to the SEC title game. 9 straight times that they have been to the SEC title game, they have won. I'm not making that up. That is a real stat. So they go there. Atlanta's their second home, right, when you're talking about the Alabama Crimson Tide. They do a tremendous job there. And Kirby, I think he's the best coach in the country. I don't think it's close. He's 1-7 against Alabama. And I think a lot of people thought, he just has a Nick Saban problem. Everybody has a Nick Saban problem. He's 0-2 against DeBoer. Loses tomorrow, he's 0-3 against DeBoer. So I think, he gets the benefit of the doubt because he won back-to-back national titles. He's won a ton of games, and he's dominated basically every other team. He deserves the benefit of the doubt. He's great. Everything about Kirby Smart is awesome. If I was a college football player, that's the guy that I would want to go play for. He's tremendous. Leadership, recruiting, maturity. For whatever reason, he doesn't know how to tell his guys not to speed when they're driving. We can revisit that at a later date. But football, he knows what he's doing. He's a great coach, great mentor there as well. So I think this line should be more 3.5, 4, 4.5. But just the success that Alabama has against Georgia and the success that Alabama has at this very venue in this very game is overwhelming. It really is. Alabama, no secret, they're kind of one-dimensional. Can't run the ball well. Jam Miller, by the way, his status is up in the air. We saw him leave the Iron Bowl. He had a boot, so that's not good. They had shown some that they could run it a little bit. The Missouri game, they ran it, solid. But, I was saying all year long that was the best passing attack in America. Well, right now it's not. The passing attack has declined a little bit, and when you factor that into kind of being one-dimensional, not being able to run the ball, it's not great. Bama's got a lot of injuries. Cuevas, he was out for the Iron Bowl. His status is up in the air. I honestly am not expecting him to play. And LT Overton's sick. That's a first-round pick. That's, one of your best players on defense coming off the edge, making things a little bit difficult for Gunner there at that quarterback position for Georgia, Gunner Stockton. He's not going to be playing in the game. That's not good. Kelby Collins is out, too, for Alabama as well. So that's not, necessarily trending in their favor. And Ty Simpson, he's not on the injury report, but if you watch these past few weeks, Ty Simpson, Julian Sayin goes out there. He plays good football, and then you look at him after the game. It's like, wow, I don't even think there's a grass stain on his jersey. He looks like he could just wear that and not even have to wash his jersey. Is he even breaking a sweat right now? Not the case for Ty Simpson. He goes out there each and every week and gets rocked. And, DeBoer asked him to run a little bit there at the end against Auburn. He took some crazy shots. And to me, it doesn't look like he's 100%. He's as tough as they come, probably the toughest guy in the country as far as just his ability there as a quarterback to hang in there. He gets popped time in, time outs. And the offensive line's had an up-and-down year. I think they'll be fine against Georgia. They were fine in the first game. But Ty Simpson's going to take punishment. He's got to be banged up. There's got to be bruises all over him at this point. And I would assume there's something that's really bothering him, but nothing has came out. He's a tough dude, but he's taken some serious punishment throughout the course of this season. And then there's the question of what the heck's going on with Ryan Williams, right? I think there was kind of a consensus last year. It's like Jeremiah Smith, freshman, best receiver in the country. Ryan Williams, last year, freshman, second best wide receiver in the country. And he's not doing anything this year. He was out there a lot of snaps early. Remember, he got concussed the first game against Florida State. And they put him in the slot. I don't understand that. When he was going off last year, he was not in the slot. He was on the outside. He was running down the football field, and they were throwing it up, and he was catching it, and he was scoring touchdowns. They're not really doing that anymore. They're trying to make him a slot guy. I don't really understand that. But now at this point, they're not even putting him out there. Right, they're going with the true freshman, Latier Brooks over him. Jeremy Bernard, I think, is a first-round guy. I don't know if he will. In my opinion, he should be a first-round guy. He's great. He's their one. We understand that. But even with Cuevas out at that tight end spot, you really only saw Ryan Williams come on the field on third down. I think there's some questions there as like, how good of a teammate is he? How committed is he? There was some, texts that got leaked earlier of him banging on his quarterback, Ty Simpson. I think there's a lot of people that expect him to be gone after the year. I would be surprised if he was back. Right? I mean, when you're as talented as he is and you're not playing, he's got to be frustrated. And the coaches obviously are really frustrated in him. So they're going to need him in this game. He's got to step up. He's a talented player. He's had some drop issues in the past, but especially with Cuevas being out, I think Georgia's going to score some points in this game. Bama's going to have to score, and I think they're going to need Ryan Williams. So, it'll be interesting. A lot of people in Columbus think he'll end up in Columbus. Chris Henry, that's kind of blowing up in Ohio State's face. It's so funny. These Buckeye fans getting ready to, undefeated year, just won a national title, look like they're odds-on favorites certainly to win it again. All these people freaking out about Chris Henry and, oh, God, Brian Hartline's. I mean, live in the moment. What are we doing here? I don't really understand that. That's kind of a side tangent there. But I do think that, from the Hartline was huge, right? If you were a receiver, you're the best receivers in the country, you wanted to go to Columbus. They're still going to get great players. They're still going to get 5-star players. Don't get me wrong. But I think you're going to see, let's see how long Ohio State's wide receiver you. We'll revisit that over the course of the next few years. But wouldn't surprise me if Williams went to a place like that. Doesn't really feel like a Big Ten guy, but Ohio State would give him a heck of a lot of money. I think we all understand that. But he's going to play a big role in this game against Georgia. Defensively, I mentioned the guys that are going to be out. You're worried about a pass rush a little bit. I think what's helped Bama the past two games with the Boar against Georgia is, boom, they've kind of blitzed them. And I don't mean sending pressure. I mean scoring early against them and kind of getting Georgia on their heels. Both times Georgia has come back, and certainly some self-inflicted wounds in the game in the regular season at the end of September for Georgia. And, despite the fact that the passing attack for Alabama is not as potent as it was early in the year and that it's flat out declining, I still trust Ty in these moments more than I trust Stockton. But hand up, Stockton has surprised me. He's played great. Georgia can absolutely win the national title regardless of what happens in this game. But I think that's going to be quarterback play. It's going to be key. We're going to talk about this in a second with the Big Ten game. It's going to be massive at that position. Games like this, how you play at that position, really going to factor in, certainly the outcome of the football game. But both these offenses are solid. I think you'll see Alabama score some points, despite the fact they can't really run the ball, despite the fact that the passing attack has gone down a little bit. It's just also something about the Iron Bowl. Something about the Iron Bowl, it's always close, regardless of record. Well, something about playing Georgia. Alabama always shows up and plays good football against Georgia. The numbers, the data will say that. DeBoer's been good against them now as well. And this is an awesome game. It just feels right? Georgia, Alabama, SEC, a lot on the line. A bye probably on the line. I think a lot of people would say, Alabama doesn't deserve a bye if they win this game. I disagree. I understand they have 2 losses. If Alabama wins this game, they should be a top 4 seed, and they should get a bye. That means they beat Georgia twice. That means they beat Missouri, right? And that means they beat Vandy when they were a top 15 team. It means they beat Tennessee when they were a top 15 team. So I think the winner of this game definitely gets the bye. Obviously, Georgia does if they win, but I would argue Alabama deserves one too. If they win this game there as well. But looking forward to it. Should be tremendous. We'll revisit this game for best bets of the weekend. Finally, Ohio State, Indiana. Awesome. 1 versus 2. Said at the beginning of the show, this hasn't happened since 2009 in a conference title game where you get 1 versus 2. I don't know if it necessarily feels like that because Indiana's great. They deserve a lot of credit. They're a complete football team, but I think there's a lot of other teams that we probably would take to beat Indiana at this point. But, it's only a 4-point spread. I think it opened at like 5.5, 6. Now it's at 4. We're definitely revisiting this game for the best bets of the weekend. It's indoors, right? This, to me, is a perfect game where Ryan Day is going to cut it loose. Now, he keeps teasing this like it's going to happen, and we haven't really seen it. Had a perfect opportunity to do it against Michigan, and he said, no, you know what? We have a lead, and we're just going to run it on you and kind of embarrass you and impose our will on you to end this game. That's what he opted to do. Credit to him. It worked. They won. They won in convincing fashion. They dominated the game. I don't know if they're going to exactly be able to lean on Indiana like that because we talk about with Ohio State, like if you had to pick one weakness, it's their run game. Obviously, it wasn't a weakness against Michigan. I understand that. But I think still overall, if you had to pick one, it's that. And it's just hard for me to see Indiana scoring a bunch of points in this game. Mendoza, people want to give him the Heisman Trophy. If he goes off in this game and they win, sure, give it to him. I just don't think he's the best player in the country. I don't. And I think the past few weeks have been suboptimal for Mendoza. He hasn't been great these past few weeks. I expect Julian Sayin to outplay him in this game. And to me, this feels like just a huge game for Julian Sayin because what Penn State or what Indiana likes to do is they like to send some pressure, all right, which, they run some games or whatever at the line of scrimmage. Okay, best offensive line in the country. I don't anticipate it getting home, right? And then they play zone beyond it, right? And, they're going to have Pons over there, probably one-on-one with Jeremiah Smith. They tend to do that with Pons, and they kind of did it the last time they played Indiana last year. By the way, Pons and Smith went to high school together, so they're teammates, a lot of familiarity there. I think they're going to trust him in a one-on-one spot, which if you ever get Jeremiah Smith one-on-one, you should throw him the ball. I think Julian Sayin certainly understand that. But they play a lot of zone. And I think Julian is a good enough player where he's going to find the soft spot of the zone, and you might not see like 40, 50-yard touchdowns like we're accustomed to seeing with Ohio State, but I think you're going to see a lot of, 20-yard chunk there, first down. There's 15, chunk, first down. There's 30 yards, chunk, first down. Just picking apart this zone, and it'll be up to Indiana to kind of adjust on the fly. But I think he's going to have a big game, he being Julian Sayin. It's indoors, cut it loose. I thought they were going to do that against Michigan. They didn't. Maybe they would have if he didn't throw the early pick. I kind of feel like they changed the game plan as the game started. I think their plan was to cut it loose, and then he throws a pick on the second play, and it's like, let's maybe run the ball a little bit here. And they had success on the ground with Bo Jackson, but they're going to have to throw the football to win this game. Depending on how the game plays out, but I think the winner is going to win the Heisman, whether it be Sayin or Mendoza. I have a ticket on Sayin, so hopefully it works out there for me. But it's funny. Gus Johnson's calling this game. Everybody was banging on Gus Johnson. We were here at the show when the Penn State game, Indiana comes back, and he loses his mind. He's like, give him the Heisman, talking about Mendoza. Well, if Mendoza goes off in this game, I think he should probably drop that line again and be like, I tried to tell you all. But I don't anticipate that happening. We'll revisit a little bit for our best bets of the weekend. This Ohio State defense is real. Indiana can move the ball. This is, I don't know off the top of my head, the most points Ohio State has given up. It's not many, 14 maybe, I don't know. It's not a lot. I think Indiana will get close to 20 points, but I don't know if they're going to get 20 points in this game. And it's hard to imagine Ohio State's going to get less than 30, and it's a 4-point spread. So that should kind of tell you how I feel about this for best bets of the weekend. We'll get to that in a second. But 1 versus 2, very compelling, feels big, right? I mean, shoot, Ohio State hasn't been in the Big Ten Championship since 20, right? I mean, it's been a while since they've been in this game, obviously, with all their struggles against Michigan. But, it's good to have them back. Good for the sport that they're back in this game. Some people wondering, is there going to be a load management element to this? I would be shocked if there is. I'd be disgusted if there is as well. This is 1 versus 2. You haven't won a Big Ten championship in a long time if you're Ryan Day. You shove all your chips in, doing everything you can to win this game. And I don't think you save anything either. You let it rip in this game. And Cignetti needs to let it rip as well. Both these teams are in. Both these teams should still get a bye, in my opinion, whoever loses this game. But should be a lot of fun, and that is tomorrow night, 8 o'clock, Fox, Indiana. Number 2 against Ohio State, number 1. Lastly, ACC. I think this is on at the same time, which nobody's going to be watching this game. Duke against 17 Virginia. It's a shame. One, it's a shame that how things are set up with the tiebreakers that Duke gets to play in this game. They're 7-5. They've had some nice wins this year. I don't want to sit here and disrespect their program, all right? But this is the ACC title game. We're talking about a team like Miami. On the outside looking in, that's not good how this is set up. Not good at all. Virginia, they're ranked 17. They're 4-point favorites. These two teams played earlier in the year. Virginia beat the crud out of them. Virginia's not a very good team, right? They're not good at all. And the way things are set up with, the 5 highest ranked conference champions get in. Virginia wins this game. They're in. That doesn't help college football, right? There's no reason that Virginia deserves to be in, even if they beat a 7-5 Duke team. It's unfortunate. Ratings are going to be horrible in this game. And, if Duke wins, that opens up the possibility of, a couple of more group of 6 teams getting in, which is, I like having the 1 team in. I had said this on the show earlier this week. The segment went out last night on YouTube. I like having 1. Right? Because it gives everybody an opportunity going into the year. It's the great thing about March Madness. Regardless of where you're at in Division I athletics and basketball, you technically have a chance. I like that element, but we don't want to get overboard here and have multiple of these teams in. And then you got teams like Vandy and potentially Miami, Texas on the outside looking in. So some tweaks that need to be made with the college football playoff. But I don't have a lean on that Duke-Virginia game. Unfortunate that the ACC is as bad as it is, but also unfortunate Miami's not playing in this game. They had the 2 losses to Louisville and SMU, but, if it's Miami-Virginia, I think that's a lot more compelling to tap into, but obviously not the case.